Welcome, my homies, to the Please Do Tell podcast, where age is just a number and stories know no bounds. I'm Ronnika, your millennial storyteller, here to bridge the generation gap one captivating narrative at a time. In each episode, we embark on a journey together, exploring shared experiences, heartfelt connections, and the timeless art of storytelling. From the wisdom, of baby boomers to the perspectives of Gen Z, there's a tale for everyone in our diverse tapestry of human experiences. So grab, because you need your favorite beverage, and then settle into your comfiest chair and prepare to be swept away by tales that resonate across generations. Get ready for insights, laughter, and moments that remind us of our shared humanity. And without further ado, let the storytelling begin. Ooh, hey y'all, it's been a while since I've had a new episode. Well, not too long, but long enough, right? I missed you, my homies. I missed you. Me and you must never part, okay? But before we get started, I wanted to, the color that, my nails are already painted, but they're a little chipped, so I'm just going to pretty much just polish them, the little chip parts, fix them up a little bit because I chose this color, which is garden variety, because both of my grandmothers growing up had gardens. And I always say that I am an extension of what they grew in their garden. So both, it's, I'll share more about that later, about legacy. I won't start off heavy. Okay. All right. So you all know we are in the month of August, which I also learned is Black Business Month, but that's not what I wanted to talk about right now. I know that we were telling stories of band camp, and it seems like the month of August just kind of got away from us. But the beautiful thing about band camp and my mom supporting, well, I should say my parents, but really my mom supporting having your personal archive is that, I can't remember if it was this year or last year that my mom brought over a newspaper article. And back in the day, whenever, and I don't know where this came from, but the elders, aka my grandmama and them, would, if them or one of their friends, someone in the church, someone even that they worked with, saw you in the newspaper, they would cut out the clipping and then mail it to you in a card, or just mail you the clipping to make sure that you had it. I never knew why that was important, but clearly that was before we had newspapers.com. So that was our way of really archiving our stories and our history. So without further ado, on August 25th, 1998, I was in the newspaper for being a freshman. So you all, that's me. You can tell by the long fingers that are going across the locker. That is definitely me. Those are my grandmother's fingers. And we were taking a break from band camp and doing freshman orientation, since they said we were probably one of the largest incoming classes. I don't remember anything about the orientation. I posted this actual picture or clip, not clip, this clipping online, and my classmates were saying, we don't remember this. Nobody remembers. No one remembers us taking this picture, the orientation. Even my classmates that are quoted in the article, they don't remember it. No one remembers it. So I don't know if this was, and according to the newspaper article, it says that the orientation was one of the first they were giving something to try. They were trying something out. Now, did they continue? I don't know. But it did get me out of band camp and doing those infamous rounds that Tiger Marching Band was so known for. So thank you. I don't remember this day, but I feel like that you got me out of a lot of hard labor out there on that practice field. So thank you. I want to go into this next story because it involves travel. Now, I know that we wanted this month to be all about band camp, but I'm going to tell you about the changes that will be coming up and why I'm doing a shift and a pivot from that. You all know that I started a nonprofit a couple years ago. Well, we just became 501c3. And so we had a board retreat in New Orleans, Louisiana, about 2 weeks ago. Well, this weekend it'll be 2 weeks ago. Or is it today? I think we left today, 2 weeks ago. Yeah. Yeah. Today makes 2 weeks. And we arrived in New Orleans late. We all came from different places. So New York, North Carolina, Houston, and then two of us flew from Chicago. So we all meet in New Orleans. One of the Harveys, one of my best friends, Alicia, her older sister, Tanisha, lives there. So Tanisha definitely opened up her house for us to stay there until our Airbnb was ready for the whole board to actually be together. So Thursday night we giggled until we couldn't get until we fell asleep, and then Friday the actual retreat started. So we get to okay, first let me just say I love New Orleans. New Orleans is the vibe. I feel like Louisiana, my roots are there in some way. That was one of the stops for my great granddad when he was that is a part of the retracing their steps story, which is different stops in Louisiana. I think I've told you all that my grandmother actually graduated high school in Louisiana. So I just love whenever I'm in Louisiana. I absolutely love it. So we get there, and the Uber takes us from Tanisha's place to meet up with some of the board members so we can get in the Uber, another Uber, and then get to the Airbnb. The Airbnb was nice. Nice. Kendra, our board president, outdid herself with planning the actual retreat experience. That was, I told her I've been to not many, but I've been to quite a few conferences for work, and hands down, our board retreat, the takeaways, the conversations, the bonding, it was just well thought. And we walked away saying that, oh, Kendra, we think we found your gift, girl. It's right here. It's doing corporate retreats or conferences. It was just amazing. And anyone that really knows me personally knows, well, I've said it on here too, especially for Black Music Month. Is that sometimes I speak in lyrics or song titles or even movie quotes, TV quotes. That's usually that's my jam. And all of our activities were songs, song titles or song lyrics. So in order to shift us to the next activity, I believe my activity may have been cornbread, fish, and collard greens, which is an Anthony Hamilton song. So I could really appreciate that. I was telling one of my best friends, Demita, I said, "Oh, girl, you would live for this because it's all about music is in our transition." So after we actually completed the actual retreat, we went on a walking tour in 95 degrees. It wasn't a Friday, but it was 95 degrees on that Saturday. It was during the Red Dress Run. And we were just walking around the neighborhood where our Airbnb was. So we ended up, I think our stop was at one end of Bourbon. So not the live part of Bourbon is not where our Airbnb was. It was the end of Bourbon. And then we just took a loop and we were walking down this block. And Kendra was at the front of the line of us, or I would say the group of us. And she sees this gentleman sitting outside. So she stops and if you know Kendra, our board president, she'll talk to any and everybody. She gonna spark up a conversation with any and everybody. So we stop, and his name is Mr. Chris, and Mr. Chris has lived in New Orleans all of his life. She stopped really because she saw the Zulu banner that was above his house, and we just stopped and got history about New Orleans, about Zulu, about the home that he was in, which was actually a family home, which was absolutely beautiful. And it really tied in with Story Salon's mission. So we stopped, and that was also a charge for me. That one of the takeaways was me being more bold and confident with saying what we're doing with Story Salon, and also the board having clear language of doing the same. So I was able to tell Mr. Chris that Story Salon is all about preserving history, creating legacy, and engaging community. And he said that that's really what the group that he is a part of has, that is their mission, is really to I think he said that they've been mentoring over 100 young men, and definitely encouraged us to come back from Mardi Gras and party with them, New Orleans style. But we took a picture with Mr. Chris, and so that is something that I'm sure I put in. Yeah, I put in a reel on social media. So if you follow me on social media, you can go over there and check it there. I believe I put in my shorts for YouTube as well. If not, I will put in the shorts so you can see Mr. Chris. And he talked about how this family home has been passed down through generations. It was purchased in the 1940s, and how he owns it now, and how it will be passed down to his grandchildren or great nieces and nephews, and how they vowed never to let go of that property. So as I walked away, I was thinking about how my grandmother's house on Superior now belongs to my aunt, but a little crushed that my dad's family home is no longer in the family. And I thought about that original goal of when I completed my thesis, and thought about, well, even moved towards the direction of doing the documentary first, which that is coming after the actual exhibit of retracing their steps. But how one of the videographers had asked me, what would be your ultimate goal? And I said to have that family home back in the family. And he said, well, that needs to be a goal written down somewhere and really working towards that. So that is really the one of the bigger goals when I think about establishing a place for Story Salon to actually have a physical address. I would love for it to be our own family home. So I'm just putting that out there. I'm putting that out there so when it actually happens, you heard it here first. So we walk back to our Airbnb. We were just kind of relaxing in the air and decompressing for the day and deciding where we were going to eat dinner. We got into this Uber with Miss Jennifer, and my sister's name is also Jennifer. and and my sister will tell you that every time she's somewhere, there's a doctor's office, and it's so weird, but I've witnessed it. Because she's black, people don't expect for her name to be Jennifer. So our Uber driver, who was also a black woman, she said, "Oh, we are like unicorns, two black Jennifers." So it was, but the cool thing about Miss Jennifer that was driving us around, first of all, she was authentic New Orleans. Like, she talked the entire time, and we appreciated it. I love a good New Orleans accent. And but when I hopped in her pickup truck, because I got in the back. In the back pocket of her seat was a stack of Our Daily Breads. I said, I didn't got in the right truck. The right Uber driver came to scoop us up. She provided us with laughter, history, and she told us that she was going to do 2 by 2, which we didn't know what that was. She was going to make $200 by 2 o'clock. That was her goal, by 2 a.m. to make $200. Like I said, it was the red dress run, so we knew she was going to be busy all night. And she said, because I need to go to church in the morning. I said, come on, Miss Jennifer. Come on. Come on. You are everything. So I just, listen, the next time I go to New Orleans, I want to see Mr. Chris. And I need Miss Jennifer to really ride us around. So if she watches this, contact me, Miss Jennifer. Pickup truck in New Orleans, Uber driver. I need to talk to you again. It was everything. So we left, 3 of us three of the board members left early Sunday morning, flying out of New Orleans, and one went to North Carolina. Then two of us went to Chicago. And we were really just reflecting on what a great weekend was. I'm telling you, I can't. And Kendra got a little emotional at the end because we were really giving her flowers. Because, girl, you did that. You did that. That weekend was a little heavy for my sister and I. So it was good for us to, because my sister is a part of the Story Salon board, and we were able to just kind of disconnect from things that were going on in Michigan. One of the activities called for, it was actually the activity that I facilitated, and it was all about stories, telling your story. And so it was word association. So I gave each person a word, and it was a way for us to, and it wasn't break the ice, but really get to know each other more on a more intimate level. One of the board members, I gave the word of church, and what came out of his mouth, I was like, you know what, you're right. He said, church, when I think about church, I think about that was how I learned how to fundraise. I learned how to fundraise and public speaking. And all of us at that table were like, you know what, you're right. You're right. We did learn public speaking from Easter speeches to what do they say? Scripture praise. We had, even if you couldn't read, it was like, you better try. We're gonna help you, but you better try. So all of that stage fright, child, that was going in the church. You had to do it in front of the church. They were the ones that were gonna tell you the real of, you need to go back and try this again. Or they were going to be in there saying, yes, baby, keep going. Amen. Praise the Lord. As your personal cheerleaders. And so my sister and I were reflecting on that even this week. Because my brother was here over the weekend. And someone had asked me, like, man, Gerald has always been such a great speaker. I said, the church. I said, we just talked about this a week ago. It's the church. And it was another thing that came up regarding churches. Elder Gullidge, I believe he's an elder. I know Nate Gullidge. He said, if we sit back and really think about this current generation and how we're guiding them, it's really on us. A lot of them don't fear God. And I was like, well, a lot of people aren't going to church anymore. So how can we fix that? But it was so many things that were, so many lessons, so many things that were taught to us, being punctual. Sometimes, I'm not, but I know I'm supposed to be, Things start without me, but it's because we're not going to church and really bringing them up in the way that they should go. So that's just my little 2 cents. Because if you ever wonder, like, oh, okay, well, why is she not afraid to get up and just be who she is in front of people? The church. The church. So I'm going to just know, well, we had a board meeting on Tuesday. We were reflecting and really preparing for Retracing Their Steps. That exhibit launch opens September 5th at the Morton House in Ben Harbor, Michigan. Excited about that. There'll be a quick walkthrough of the exhibit, and then there'll be a talk back, and there will be light refreshments. So we're just excited that this is happening. This is happening. So this will be our first, and We're excited that Story Salon will be in front of all of you and that you can really participate and see or just really ask questions about how this journey has been for all of us. Whew. So this next story, I think I'm gonna save for next time. Yeah, I'm gonna the story that no, you know what? No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm gonna. This is just gonna be. It's gonna be a little bit longer. Okay. The last time I was in the studio was July 25th. And July 26th, I talked about why July 26th is so significant to me. And I went and dropped off some donations to the Boys and Girls Club, the local Boys and Girls Club, and it was actually their Unity Day. So I was pulling up like, oh, it's a party over here. So I'm dropping off the donations, and then I'm leaving out, and I'm talking to some former coworkers, and I look and I said, "Ooh, that looks like my preschool teacher. That looks just like her." And I said, Miss McDonald. She looked up and she said, "Ronnika, preschool." Now you all know that I celebrated a milestone birthday this year, so you can just imagine how long ago that was that she knew who I was. So we talked, we took pictures. She is also the same woman that I saw the day before my dad died. The day before. I'm sure I told this story. I feel like I've told it a couple of times. I even told it when I posted the picture of her and I on social media. And she said, "I usually see my mom, but she said, I usually see your mom, but I never see you. But I thought about you a couple weeks ago, and here you are." And I can remember when she got married. Like that's how long I've known her. I remember her being my teacher, her on the playground, kids, crowding around, being nosy, listening to adults, ear hustling. And she was telling some other teachers about this guy that she met and that she was going to be getting married. And I remember me just had no business. I was like, "Do you kiss him? Do you like him? Do you love him?" And that next year, she got married, and she left our school district, and I would see her just in passing here and there. Maybe I probably ran into her less than 10 times since she left my elementary school. So it was really, really good to see her. And she was just saying that how she's just so proud of the students that she had the pleasure of teaching. So that after I left there, I went home and I just reflected on where I was back in 2008 when I left and arrived in North Carolina on July 26th. Overwhelming emotions that I think I was on Marco Polo, even FaceTime with the heartbeats, just like it was really heavy on me. Like it was just a lot. It was really eerie how I felt that day. So the weekend, I'm coasting through the weekend, all of that. Monday comes and I'm trying to think, where was I? Somewhere Monday? Not sure. I just remember the evening part. I'm on the couch and my mom calls me, I think around 6 p.m. And she says, Barbara just called me, which is my aunt. I call her Aunt Barbie. She said, Barbara just called me and said that Perry, which is my cousin, who's also been on the Please Do Tell podcast. If you go back to the Everyday People of the 49022, he's the first 2 episodes. Too Much Ego. Too Much Ego is, I think, still the most downloaded and watched episode of this podcast. Um, she said Perry um Perry allegedly had a heart attack, and she said she doesn't know anything else, but she said it doesn't look good. I said, okay, well, I'll just sit here and just wait for you to call back with some better news. She said, okay. So maybe, I think that was around maybe 6 o'clock. And by 7:30, my mom called me and was like, he's gone. And I sat on the edge of the couch trying to process what she just told me. And I had to take a deep breath, and I said, okay. All right. Let me call Gerald and Jenner, which are my siblings. I said, let me call Gerald and Jennifer and tell them. Like, I didn't want to put that on my mom, so I called them. I called my sister, and she heard the wrong name at first. She thought I was, because she was like, oh man, like, I need to call mom, and because my uncle's name is also Perry, my mom's brother, whose son I'm referring to, his name is also Perry. So she was hearing something else, and I had to tell her. I said, you're not listening. I said, Perry Jackson. She had a different reaction, like, huh? Then I called my brother. He didn't answer, and I was trying to catch him, because within 30 minutes it had spread like wildfire. It was on social media. People were calling me. I said, oh dear God, I have to get him before he logs on Facebook. So he calls me back, and he didn't hear it. He even says this. The funeral was this past Saturday. He says this on Saturday. He was saying that when my sister called me, I was like, no, maybe she got the wrong person. Maybe. Perry had just turned 50 on July 6th. He was just released from parole in May. And we were looking forward to sitting down and having a conversation with him about just what life has been like post being incarcerated. And even in that episode of Too Much Ego, Perry clearly lays out what happened, how he wished that someone was, as he says, a big homie was there for me when I was younger. So I knew that was a charge on my life when I got out, is to be a better person. So I made the phone calls and all of that, and just not really still understanding what is going on. From the last episode, I told you that I was going to be the speaker of a grief dinner on July 30th. I still showed up to that grief dinner on July 30th. And still spoke. I hadn't made any comments, anything on social media before or after I knew about his passing. Didn't say anything. So Tuesday comes around, and I was like, okay, we still have an event tonight. I should probably, because people are now looking at me. People in the community definitely know me to be Perry's cousin. Like, they know this. So for that dinner to be on that day, they're looking at me like, is she still gonna be there? She's still gonna talk? I went on Facebook maybe around, I know it was the afternoon, and I posted a throwback when I say, I'm the ancestral archivist, right? So I'm gonna dig down for those photos. And there's a photo of We still don't know who's on my cousin Greg's lap, but we'll figure it out. But there's a young person. I think it's one of the friends. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna say it's a younger cousin. Younger cousin on Greg's lap. Then it's my cousins Wesley and Jason sitting down. Then standing up are my cousin Perry, my uncle May, my grandpa James, and then my brother Gerald. And my status said four, four out of the 8 people that are in this photo are ancestors. I need you to meet me at the grief dinner tonight. And someone told me at that grief dinner, she said, everyone was like holding their breath, waiting for you to post. And when you did, it was so you. It was timely, and it gave us the green light, like, okay, she's still going to be there. She's going to do this. She's going to show up even in her grief. I didn't tell anybody on the committee about what had happened. They hadn't been on Facebook to even see that I put a post out there. They just knew that I hadn't canceled. I was going to be there that evening. And we serve a dinner, refreshments, all of that. And before I got up to speak, 2 women come through the door, and they drove all the way from Chicago. And one of them was the chaperone with me on the Mexico City trip that I did in June. And she said, I remember you saying that you were going to do this. That's why I said, send me the flyer. I'll try to come. And she came. And just the reminder of, like, we all need those safe spaces to grieve, to talk, to come together. And that's what that was for that grief dinner. Perry did a lot in a short amount of time. He made a lot of promises. There was a lot of conversations that he had. It was a lot of navigating this new normal for him. And I am just beyond grateful that I was obedient and asking him to be a part of that series. I'm really just, that's all I keep thinking about, is that is now a part of his legacy. He does have a daughter, but a daughter and a granddaughter, and clearly plenty of family that loves him still. But I asked him to be a part of this because I knew that he gave a different perspective. I knew that he was transparent. It was a lot of conversations that we had in closed sessions that I will never forget, that shaped him into the man that he is today. And I'm grateful that I took this picture of him. This picture is actually at the corner of Empire and Broadway, which is a corner that he knew so well, especially growing up. I don't know. Sometimes I'm still at a loss for words. We just buried him Monday. I've only seen 2 people be returned to God's garden. And he was one of them. The first person was my dad, and then the second one was Perry. And I know over the next, I'm going to say years, still be talking about how Perry impacted my life before the conversations just about him while he was incarcerated, and then the relationship that I built with him after. There were a lot of people that were against him being a part of the series. But my oh my, did he come out swinging. So if there's a couple of takeaways or call to actions even for yourself with assisting with the obituary and even arrangements, just here and there answering questions and stuff like that and answering the state questions, is it made me go look at my insurance policy and make sure that my beneficiaries are up to date. So that's my biggest takeaway. And that's what I want to share with you all. And it's scary to talk about. I know it is, but we see that in the blink of an eye, you can be gone. It was so many people that said, I just seen him Sunday. He was just in Ben Harbor that previous weekend for family reunion. So many good, like, I just seen him Sunday. I just seen him Saturday. I just met him Sunday. Monday, he was gone. Monday, he was an ancestor. So when I say our stories, and I don't care how for some people, they may say, oh, it's not a favorable story to tell. Every story isn't going to be about Care Bears. Every story is not going to be based in the land of Care-a-Lot. They're not. Every story is not linear. Just tell it. I think so many times that we are just like, I'm embarrassed, judged, worried about the outcome. That's another reason why I'm here. You know, if you need assistance with that, I'm here with telling your story. You know, I've had guests on the show, all of that. So I want you to be comfortable with telling your story. And this is even a charge for myself because I was given the task today to go live more on social media. And I was like, go live? She said, you have a whole podcast. How could you not go live? But it's being more transparent and being more comfortable with sharing with you all about who I am and what I do. But this one knocked me off my square. So that's why I said that the retreat came at such a time that we needed to get away, focus on something different, and then come back and prepare our minds for that. But it was something that Perry said when he got out. And he said, cause, you know, one of the things I want to do when I'm home is get family back together. You know, I love family. Every person that interacts with him, they'll say, oh, he called to check up on me. He'd stop by and see me. He just loved people, you know. He loved people, and he especially loved family. And his thing was the last couple of conversations we had. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it, cuz I'm gonna get the family back together, man. I'm gonna do it. Perry, I can say you succeeded. It was at least, as my cousin said, because he sat in the back of the church, and we know the capacity of that church now. It was at least 1,000 people in there on Saturday. At least. And there were some people that just came for the viewing. But just think, in a short amount of time, you know this story, a short amount of time, you can do a whole lot. So what are you going to do with the time that you have left? So, as we come to a close for this story time, one of the takeaways from the retreat, the board retreat, was that our vice president, Mr. Jeffrey Booker, said, We want to hear more stories about families. So I put a poll out there, and that's what you want to hear. Like, a lot of people even said to my mom that aren't on social media that much, but people have said to my mom, we love when Ronnika talks about Story Salon. We love when Ronnika talks about retracing their steps, Final 48, just all of the things that go in the Story Salon umbrella. And I even said on social media that Final 48 Project is now a part of Story Salon, and that people love hearing about their village. So I'm planning to do more of that. So just a I would say niching down just a little bit and a little pivot from what we were doing with the themed months, but theme months will look a little bit different. And so get ready to talk about more of our family stories, because our family stories actually make us who we are, or who we want to be. The one more thing, and this is why it's so important. I was telling one of Perry's nieces, I was telling them, I said, man, wouldn't it be cool if I got all of the Gen Zers together with like the baby boomers and our elders, so you can really know who family are? Yes, because when I worked at the Boys and Girls Club, I would look at names, and then I'd look at faces. I'm like, that's a cousin. And I wouldn't always say that I was their cousin, because I wanted them to be themselves in those settings. So then they would go home and say like, oh yeah, Miss RJ, she's so cool. And then finally one time, one of my older cousins that came to pick up his kid, and he said, oh my goodness, RJ is your cousin. RJ is Ronnika. And they were like, what? Like, what? We've been hanging out with her this whole time. He said, yeah. I said, I wanted them to be their own person. Like, don't feel like you can't be yourself at a place that is for you, right? So if you got a little boyfriend, I ain't even gonna tell nobody. If you hold hands with him, I ain't gonna tell nobody. Now, if he try to kiss you, I'm a snitch. I'm gonna tell it. So we were at the repast for Perry and one of his nieces, Maddie. She was asking me, she was like, I don't want to point, because Maddie's father is Perry's brother, who is also deceased. So my Uncle Perry has now buried 2 sons. That is a visual that will not leave my mind. But Maddie is asking, she said, okay, the person that's standing up over there, is that a cousin? I'm like, oh no, girl, that's the other side. But I mean, you could say that's family. But a part of your tree, she wouldn't pop up in your tree. And they love that. They love it. And I thought about how much I loved it when I found family. So I'm going to share more of that with you. So, y'all, we got through it. But this this concludes this episode of the Please Do Tell podcast. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the power of storytelling, y'all. I have a few updates. I did tell you that the Retracing Their Steps, the Eventbrite, I will put in the show notes, or the show description, show notes. Y'all, it's going to be there. It's going to be right there for you to be a part of that. And then, but your feedback, of course, I said your feedback means the world to me. I'm listening. I'm hearing what you want to hear and making the necessary adjustments. So your feedback means the world to us. It helps others actually discover the magic of Please Do Tell. So don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and then share with a homie, y'all. Just share with a homie. And of course, if you have a story to share, you can always send that story to pleasedotellpodcast@gmail.com, or just drop me a note on social media as well, and I'll get back to you and see how we could tell your story. Until next time, keep dreaming, keep exploring, and keep sharing your stories with the world. I'm your homegirl, Ronnika, and this is Please Do Tell.